Alright, in this Blender tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this springy, bouncy thingy, whatever you want to call it, using rigid bodies and rigid body constraints. I go into quite a bit of detail, so it's going to take about 30 minutes, but I guess we should go ahead and get started. Alright, I will be using Blender 4.4.1 for this example, and hopefully I don't sound too weird because I bit my tongue and my tongue is sore. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. If you have the default cube, go ahead and keep the default cube. So I need to add it, being that my default scene does not have a cube. Now I'm going to make this cube a little bit smaller. S for scale, 0.5, enter, Control A to apply the scale. When you're talking about physics objects, you need to apply the scale. You can always tell whether the scale is applied. If all of these show 1, then the scale is applied on that object, whichever object you have selected. Alright, now we need to make this a rigid body object. So we're going to come over here to the physics tab, click on rigid body, and we're going to change this from active to passive because we do not want it to fall with gravity. And that's the only thing we need to do to change the settings on that one. Alright, now let's press Shift D and then Z and then move this up to about right here. Alright, now press S for scale, Z for the Z axis, and then 0.2, enter. And of course this will be our bouncy part. Once again, it's a physics object. Control A, apply the scale. Now come over here to where it says passive, and we need this to be active. Alright, now we need to connect these two. So just shift select the other one so that both of them are selected. Come up here to object and then rigid body and then connect. Now I'm going to put this in wireframe, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to be able to move this constraint to the center of this cube. Now the origin point's already in the center of this cube, so we can just press Shift S, selection to cursor, and it will put it there. Now I'm going to, with this constraint selected, Shift select the cube and then press Control P to bring up that menu, and we're going to set parent to object. And basically all we're doing is parenting this constraint to this cube so that if we move this cube, the constraint moves with it. Alright, now this constraint, we need to change the settings on it. It defaults to fixed. We don't want fixed, we want a generic spring. Now we only want the spring to work in the Z axis. So what we need to do with all of these, turn them on and then set them to 0. Because we do not want them to spin. We want this cube up here to spin on any angle. And on here, on the X and Y, we're going to set it to 0. And on the Z, we want this to be able to move in this direction, the negative Z direction, about 1. But we don't really need it to move up from this position. So we're going to set this to 0. Alright. And just to make sure it works, we're going to add mesh and then a UV sphere. I'm going to scale this down, S for scale, 0.33, enter. And then Control A, apply the scale, grab G for grab, Z for the Z axis, bring it up here, and click on rigid body, and probably set it to about 10 kilograms. Alright, now let's press play. Now what happened is this cube right here just collapsed straight down. The reason why is because we have no springs set up. So we come down here to the Z axis, and then we'll set this to, let's say, 100, and we'll see what that looks like. It's not strong enough. It was strong enough to support its own weight, but not the ball. Okay, so let's bring it up to 1,000. And that's probably about the right amount. Probably needs just a little bit more strength to it. I'll put it on 1250. but there's no dampening to it hardly at all, which means it's going to be very springy. We need a little bit of dampening, so I'm going to turn this up to about 25 on the dampening. That looks about right. Alright, now here comes the fun part. So we're going to select this one so that this cube, the constraint, and the bottom cube are all selected. Now let's go on the top side view, and I'm going to press Shift D Y and just put it right next to it. Just leave a little gap, and then press Shift R, and it just duplicates what you did, what your last move was. Alright, now I'm going to press Shift D and then Y, and then move it this way. Once again, leave a little bit of a gap, and Shift D Y. So we have springs, a set of springs on cubes, or whatever you want to call it, 5 wide. Alright, now I'm going to temporarily hide this sphere to get it out of the way. Go back in the top side view, and I'm just going to press B, the letter B for box select, select this, and then I'm going to go on the front side view by pressing 1, and I'm going to Shift D, and then just bring it to about right, actually bring it to about right here. Drop about half the thickness of one of these cubes. Alright, and since we did that in one move, we can press Shift R, and it just duplicates what we just did. Alright, now that's probably about enough for this example. Now we need to add some sidewalls. Alright, well, I'll tell you what, before I do that, I want to add some materials to this. Now, add whatever materials you want. I use this add-on, Extreme PBR. I mean, I can add the materials myself manually, but this is just so much simpler. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all these top ones. And I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode. Make sure everything is selected, which it is. And if everything's not selected, you can press A, the letter A, until everything is selected. And then I'm going to press U, and then I'm just going to choose Smart UV Project. Alright. And then, since I'm using this PBR add-on, I'm just going to pick a material out of it. And I'm going to give this a rusty metal material. Actually, I'm going to go with 2K. And I'm going to add new. Alright, now because these are separate objects, it's only added it to the object that I have selected right here. So with all of them selected, I have to press Control L, and it brings up this menu, and I choose Link Materials. Now all of them have the same material. Alright, now I'm going to do the same thing with the larger cubes. Alright, now I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode. Again, make sure all of them are selected. Press U, I'm choosing Smart UV Project, and then I'm going to give this a different material. And add new, and again, it's only applied to this one. Control L, bring up this menu, and link materials. There are several add-ons that's similar to this one. This is just the one I've had for years, and a lot of people don't even use these material asset add-ons, but I find it easy. Alright, now let's see, let's go ahead and make the sidewalls. Now I'm just going to add, I'm actually going to use a cube, and let's go in the top side view, and I'm going to make this kind of narrow. S for scale, Y for the Y-axis, and then make this about that big. Doesn't have to be exact. And then I'm going to press G for grab, and then just move it to about right there. Alright, go on the front side view, and then S for scale, and we're going to make it about, well actually, I tell you, I'm going to do it just a little bit different. I'm going to S for scale on the X-axis, and then make it about that big, and then I'm going to rotate it so that it's like that, and then press G for grab, and then move it into place and rotate it just a little bit better. Alright, then S for scale, Z. Again, it's not, I'm not trying to make it precise or anything, but you see kind of what I'm going for, even though I have to S for scale, Y, and bring it, make sure it's not overlapping. All right, and then press Control A, apply the scale, come over here to rigid body, change it to passive because we don't want it to fall with gravity, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a material. I'm just going to give this a glass shader, and I'm going to turn the roughness on this one all the way down, and then I'm going to press Shift D, Y. That way we have another one we can put back here on the back wall, and we're going to separate these materials by clicking on this number, and then this one I'm going to add a little bit of roughness, 0.1. all right, that way the one in the back will be a little bit more difficult to see through, and the one in the front will be clear. Hope that makes sense. All right, now I'm going to put this in solid view so it actually kind of makes sense what we're looking at. All right, now I'm going to find my sphere wherever I put it. Here it is, and I'm just going to duplicate these. I'm going to put this like right on the edge, that way I can get the ball rolling essentially, and then Shift. I'll give this a material first. I think I'm going to give us a wood material. Make it a dark wood. Add new, and now I'm going to press, actually I'm going to give that a smooth shader, or shade smooth rather, and I'm going to press Shift D and then Y, and then just repeat it, Shift R to repeat several times. And now I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to press Shift D, X, and then move it out here, and then once again Shift R. So you see what's going on here. It's nothing major. This is like something you would like if you was building a Rube Goldberg machine. This is just one component of it, but it gives you ideas is what I'm thinking. All right, now I'm going to go ahead, and before I animate this, I'm going to come up here to File and Save, and I'm just going to name this Toot, and now I'm going to press play. Nothing spectacular, just some neat interactions. Of course, ran out of, when I got to frame 250, it stopped animating, and that's because the cache settings default to 250 frames. So I need to come up here to the scene properties, and then cache, and I'm going to set this to 1250, and go back to the beginning, delete all bakes, and then I'm going to click bake, and then let it basically resume where it left off. And right now it's just doing the same thing it was doing before when I click play. It's just doing it in the background. It's a little bit quicker. And then whenever it gets done, then the animation bake files, or I don't think it's considered a point cloud, but basically the location, rotation of each one of these, like the keyframes of it, are stored in cache files. Alright, now let's see what this looks like. Now I do want to make one change. I want to put a floor down here, instead of just having these balls just fall forever. Looks like we need a few more frames, because I like playing these until all of it stops. Alright, let me go up to frame 2000, and then delete bake, 2000, bake. And see, that's the great thing about rigid bodies. As long as you don't change anything, you know, in the scene itself, you can actually just resume where you left off at. Alright, now Let's see if that was enough. Alright, that's probably 1400 will be enough. So I'm going to change the end frame to 1400. And now I'm going to go back to the beginning and I'm going to add a floor. Add mesh, plane, and S for scale. S for scale. Grab. Just put this about right here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And actually, let me see here. I'm going to add something for the balls to hit so they don't roll off the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the scale on this floor, and then I'm going to go ahead and click delete bake and come up here to the physics tab. Make this a passive rigid body so that it doesn't fall with gravity. Surface response, I'm going to turn it up to 1. That way that has a little bit more friction. And I'm going to add a cube. Now this cube is right out here. I'm going to put this in wireframe so I can see it better. And let me see here. Grab, C. I'm just going to make it right on the floor. Grab, C. Alright. And I'm going to make this a rigid body. I'll make this 100 kilograms. That way it can move when the balls hit it, but it's not going to move a whole lot because it's 10 times the weight of the individual balls. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a material. And I'm going to actually give it a rock material. And that one looks fine. I'm not really going for something artistically spectacular or anything like that. And I'm going to go in the top side view, and I'm just going to Shift D, and I'm just kind of scattering these around so that the balls will hit them and hopefully not roll off the side. And I'm just pressing Shift D to duplicate them. Alright, that should be enough. If it ain't, tough. You get the idea. Alright, now, before I simulate this again, I'm going to press File, Save. I wish the Blender team would put an icon up here, like right here. It's just a little disk icon where you just click that and save. I don't know why they don't have it. I'm surprised they don't have it, actually. Alright, now that I'm done complaining about a free program, I'm going to come over here to the scene properties and change this to 1400 and then click bake. Now it's going to have to rebake everything because I added more objects to the scene. I'll go ahead and fast forward through the rest of this. Alright, the simulation is done. Now let's take a look at it. Press, actually I'm going to come up here to File and Save, and then click play and see what this looks like. Apparently I didn't need all these cubes anyway. They would have just for the most part stopped, but it makes it look okay either way. I probably should have made the spheres just a little bit bigger, but it's all good. This is just giving you an idea of how to use some of these things like the constraints. Alright, basically we need 1200 frames. And that's another thing that's kind of weird about rigid bodies. You can simulate it twice, and even though nothing up here changed in terms of physics, it only changed down here, it changed the way it acted up here as well, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I'm going to set this to 1200. Well, actually, I'll set this one to 1200. Alright, now I'm going to see what this looks like in rendered view. Alright, now I'm definitely going to give this floor some kind of material. And let's see, tiles. I'm going to give it one of these tile materials. I don't really like those. Mix. Yeah, I've used this one. So, here we go. This one will work. And now let's give this a 4K texture. Add new. And then I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing tab, and I'm going to drag this over, change this to UV editor, and then I'm just picking a material, it doesn't matter which one, and press A to make sure all the vertices are selected, and then I'm going to just scale this up so that it makes there are like more tiles on the floor. Alright, hope that makes sense. I have never done a tutorial on materials because I'm not good at materials. Alright, now let's look at this through the camera. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in a solid view and exit edit mode by pressing tab. And now I'm just going to position this camera. Oops, I need to select the camera. I must have it turned off up here. Yeah. Zoom in a little bit to maximize it. Actually, probably gonna have to go up some. Alright, now just down here, and I'm just going to kind of have it start in this position and then end up over here somewhere. So I'm going to keyframe this, and then I'm going to go to the end frame, and I'm going to put the camera where I want it to end at. Probably up a little bit higher, tilt down, back a little bit. Alright, and then I'm going to keyframe that. Then I'm going to go right in the middle, and I'm going to just kind of adjust this so I get more of a wider view. This isn't the best camera work by no stretch of the imagination. And once again, keyframe it, and let's see where we need to make some adjustments at. Yeah, so far it looks pretty good. Hopefully I'm not talking too quiet. I'm trying to avoid rubbing my tongue on that tooth that I bit it with. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good, in my opinion. Alright, now let's run a test render. I'm just gonna do this one. 128 samples should be plenty. See what my output settings are. Actually, I want this to, let me pick a output location. And new toot output. And this would be, I'm just going to give these a prefix of 1 dash. That way, that will be, because I'm probably going to render from a couple different angles. That will be my angle 1. Alright, and I'm not going to use PNG. PNG takes a little bit longer to go through the network, which all this stuff is going through the network. So I'm just going to put this on JPEG, although 100% PNG is better quality. But I'm just trying to make this go faster. I generally use PNG. And I'm going to make sure placeholders is selected because I will be using at least 2 more GPUs to render this on another machine. And let's see, I'm going to name this Springy Thingy Toot. Alright, it doesn't have to make sense. Just has to be somewhat rememberable. Boy, that tongue's getting on my nerves. Alright, now make sure we have all this set. All that set correctly. Come back over here and we'll do a test render and see what this looks like. We're probably gonna make a couple changes maybe. Well, that's actually not that bad. I'm going to actually make this glass back here just a little bit less, a little bit easier to see through. Alright, go back over here to the 3D viewport, select this one, go to the materials, and set this to 0.025. We do one more test render. Alright, now I need to make sure we have blur, motion blur turned on. And actually I want to add some depth of field. And let's go back to the 3D viewport. I'm going topside view. And if you check right here, limits, you'll pop, this right here will pop up, that little stringy thing telling you what your camera's pointed at. And then this right here adjusts this point, which is the focus point. Actually, I'm going to go back to the beginning because I want to keyframe this. I'm going to add a keyframe, go to the next one, add a keyframe, go to the next one, and add a keyframe. Alright, and then on the f-stop, this is sort of, this, if you're familiar with DSLR cameras, this is how, controls how wide the aperture opens. The wider it opens, the more light it lets in, but also the less depth of field you have, the less range at which the objects are in focus. But it's kind of counterintuitive because you would think open it wider would be given a higher number, but actually it's just the opposite. So 0.1 is open very wide, and we'll give this a test render. And you can see it's a little bit blurry in the backgrounds. Huh. Wonder why my materials on my steps are not like they should be. That's weird. Yeah, only one of the steps on each side have the material applied. That is really weird. Alright, let me go ahead and fix that. I don't know what I did to mess. Once again, solid view, file, save, render, image. That looks better. Doesn't look weird. Alright, so now I'm going to render these out. File, save, render, animation, and let's see, I'm going to go over to my other machine. And I'm going to open up that Blender project. And come up here to edit. Well, not edit, file, or what am I thinking? Yeah, edit, preference. And this machine has my 2060s in it, so I'm going to, this one has the bottom one selected, so I'm going to go ahead and press render animation, and then I'm going to open it up again, and this time I'm going to choose the other 2060 Super. Edit, preferences. Alright, render animation. Now I'm going to go ahead and close that so that I'm only back on my main machine. And let me bring up my output. To output. Well, that's a problem. I forgot. Alright, now I usually use a common disk for all of these, so I kind of messed up. when it comes to naming it, because the network drive letter is different. But anyway, I need to actually come in here and change this to here, basically, so that it will actually go to the correct drive, because the drive letter is different. It's one of the hassles of doing this through the network and all that stuff, and I didn't think it out whenever I started this. Render animation. Alright, now, because the other one's also needs to be changed. That one's correct. It's the one in the middle. I'm going to cancel that because it's putting files where I don't need them to go. Such a rookie move is what that was. Now, render animation. Now I can close this. And now you can see it's working on 3 frames at a time. You got one computer doing 2 frames, and then this one working on 1. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and render these out, and it'll be somewhere in the video. I guess that's it. If you have any questions about how to go about doing this, if I didn't explain it very well, which apparently I've forgotten how to talk and use Blender, and I made a bunch of little silly mistakes. Bunch of rookie mistakes, but anyway, I hope I didn't confuse anyone too badly. Guess that's it. Later, people.